Amy from Backroad Buddies of Red Tail Lodge, and I'm here today in Broomfield, Colorado, back at our home. But I wanted to talk today about the window shades and the curtains we fixed up for the van while we were traveling. So let's start here at the back of the van. We made these window shades for all the windows around the van. There is a prototype video we did, and I can link that in the description below. We modified the shades a little bit from the prototype. Instead of wrapping the fabric all the way around to the other side, we just kind of overlapped a little bit and just hot glued it along the edge. And there's so this is corrugated plastic, and then there's a sheet of reflectix, and then the fabric. The other modification we made was we initially made these pull tabs out of the fabric that's on the one side, but we noticed that was kind of a stretchy material, so we actually switched the material we use for the pull tab, and we used this PVC poly blend that we found at Hobby Lobby, and that's kind of mentioned in the prototype video as well. But we noticed that they don't really like to stay on, and we don't really feel like we even need the pull tabs. There's enough of an overlap usually on the edge that you can pull to get these back out of the window. So the way these work is they're just a friction fit into the window, and they just stay in like that. And then when we're done, we pull them out and we store them underneath the mattress just like that, nice and easy. So there's one on this side, and we try to keep them straight, because we do have labels on the shades, but they don't like to stay on. So we keep, the driver's side on the driver's side of the bed, and the passenger on the passenger, so we can keep those straight. You'll also notice back here we have this curtain. This is a waterproof shower curtain, and the reason we put that up there is to protect our bedding. Our bedding's right behind here. So if we need to get in the back and it's raining or snowing or whatever, we want to make sure that our bedding doesn't get wet. We normally keep it tucked up like this, and that's so when we're driving we can still see out these back windows while we're driving, because we like to have that visibility. The only time we will pull this down, is if we want to use our little hose here to either rinse ourselves down, or some equipment or shoes or bikes or whatever, that we're not splashing water back inside the van. So that's when we'll pull that curtain down. Otherwise we just keep it tucked up underneath here. And let me come around and I'll show you the shades in the rest of the van. So I guess we'll start with the ones that I have sitting out here. These are the original ones we made for the windshield. The windshield was a little tricky because it's such a big window, and then you've got the rear view mirror to deal with. So we originally made the shades just like we did the other ones. However, when we were measure fitting these to the window, we just had the corrugated plastic when we were actually trimming it to fit, because it has to fit pretty tight. But the trim kind of narrows in on the edge of the windshield, so when we added the other thicknesses on there, it didn't quite fit in there very well. And then also when we try to wedge these in and get it up around the rear view mirror, we had to constantly twist the rear view mirror one way and then the other to get these in. So it wasn't a very easy thing to do, but we ran out of time. We didn't have time to do anything else. So we did the first part of our trip, the 3 weeks, with using these. that really got to be an issue when we got to Sequoia National Park is we had these sitting in the windshield in the full sun all day, well actually probably 2 days, and so these are held in by hot glue. The hot glue melted in the sun and then cooled overnight and actually glued these to the windshield. So we had a heck of a time that final morning when we were ready to leave to try to get these out of the windshield, and I don't remember how long that took us to pry them out. So when we were home in July for a few days, we actually came up with our version 2 for the windshield. And let me show you that. So version 2, we just cut out one big huge sheet of Reflectix and then cut a little slit to go around the rear view mirror, and then it's just pretty much held in place with the visors. And then so taking this in and out is a lot easier than the one before. As you see, this is a little too flexible to shove underneath the mattress, so we actually store this one up on top. So then the other shades, well here, let me talk about these ones. We have these 4 windows underneath the bed. Now these are a little harder to get to and pull in and out, so we actually travel with all 4 of those in place and we never take them out. And we find that we get enough light in here with all the other windows that we don't really need the light in from those. And we also don't need it for visibility when we're driving. We have enough other windows to look around in. We did have one that was a little bit of an issue, this one here. Because of the tight space trying to get it in, we couldn't get it in through this space very well. So we actually, it's kind of hard to see, but we slit the plastic and then put duct tape on top of it so we got enough flex so we could get the shade in and out back there. The only other issue we had was, well, I guess there was a couple. Let me bring this down. So the shades for these doors don't sit down in there because there's not much depth to these like there are the other windows. So they actually won't stay up by themselves, but it's really not that big of a deal because we just hold it in there, shut the door, and then it's kind of, if you come in and look at this, it's kind of sitting between the door and the door frame, so it holds it in just fine. It just means that we have to open and close the door in order to get them in and out. The other one that gave us issues was this sliding door. And if I can get you to come in. Is this one, it's a friction fit, but it likes to keep falling in, especially when we open and close the door. Our solution for that, and I should have gotten it out ahead of time, is we actually take a credit card. Well, this is actually thinner than a credit card. It's like a little rewards card. And we just jam it up underneath the molding there. And that holds that in there pretty well, even if we open and close the door. It seems to hold it in just fine. So that really worked out. So the other thing I wanted to show you, if you come around this other way, is these curtains. I actually am redoing one of the tiebacks, but we bought these curtains off of Amazon, and I'll have links to our gear page so you can find all these things that we bought. And we strung 2 panels across using a rope and tying it into the T-track. It's the same thing we did with the shower curtain in the back. So then we actually have 2 tiebacks. I'm redoing one right now. This one I actually have in the other configuration because well, I'll show you when I pull it down. It's because the sides of the van kind of curve in. This T-track doesn't go all the way to the edge, so we actually wanted to pull those curtains for a little more privacy. Initially I put these grommets in along the side, hoping that I could put like a command hook on the side here and hooking it in there, but I couldn't get the command hooks to stick to this textured plastic. So the solution we came up with actually reuses the tiebacks. And if you notice, we have the one end just knotted to the seat belt on this side and the carabiner through that grommet. And that's kind of pulls that a little tighter against the side of the van. Normally when we're going down the road and we want the curtains open, we actually have tiebacks that we loop through, and then the carabiner just fits in there like that. If you notice, there's no grab bar on the other side, so we just loop it around the post here, the headrest, and that's where the other tieback goes. So this curtain actually comes in helpful because if you notice that windshield shade there's gaps in it, and so if we're really concerned at night if people can see in, that we have that extra privacy of pulling the curtain. The other times it comes in use is when we want to either quickly change in here or use the camping toilet, and we don't want to put all the shades in, we can just pull the curtain close. And if it's during the day and there's no lights on in here, the graphics on the windows actually is dark enough that gives you enough privacy you can't really see in the side windows. And we could probably demo that real quick here. Let's pull this guy out. And I'll close this and hopefully you won't be able to see me. So if we want to do that real quick. The other times we've used the curtain is we're both inside the van and one of us wants to use the camping toilet, which doesn't happen very often, but you kind of like a little more privacy than that. So this suite swivels around and we can pull the curtain so someone can be sitting there, and yes, you're just on the other side of a curtain, but at least you're out of sight. So we really like having those curtains there, even though it seems like it's a little redundant to the window shades. The curtains that we bought were actually too long for for what we needed, so we cut the bottom off and hemmed that off with the sewing machine, and then we took the extra material and made the tiebacks from that. So we cut strips about 2.5 inches wide and about 20 inches long, and then as you can see here, I first ironed over the edges to help make the seams so the material won't unravel. If you notice, I also took advantage of the hems that were already there, so I only had to do 2 sides. And this made it, ironing it over like this made it easier when it would go through the sewing machine. Okay, I'm good. So here I am sewing the hem, the edges for the tie backs. I don't use a sewing machine very often, so it actually took me a while to remember how to thread the machine and remember to get the tension right on the threads. So I don't think my mother would have been too proud of me at this moment because she was an excellent seamstress, but I definitely am not. But I did enough to be able to make these hems and so that the material wouldn't unravel while we're using it as tiebacks in the van, and also the hem along the bottom of the curtain. So they seem to do their function despite my lack of sewing skills. Okay, I'm going to show you how to put a grommet into the tie back. We're using this little grommet tool kit, and it's really a two-step process. First we need to make the hole, and then we actually need to clamp down the grommets. We're going to use, this kit kind of has two sizes. We're going to use the larger size one. So let's first do the hole. We've got our little wooden block that goes underneath there to protect things. Then there's like these two little metal things that are somewhat sharp on the one end. That's what we're going to do to make our hole, and since we're doing the larger grommet, we use the larger one. So we want to put the sharp end down on the block on top of the material, and then we just pound the heck out of it till we get through the material. This is rather thick material, so it's going to take a while. Let's see if we got through there. Oh, almost. A couple more whacks ought to do it. There we go. So we got the hole made. So we don't need our block anymore. We'll put that back. Now we're going to need the two parts to the grommet. That's the same part. There's the two parts. And then we're actually going to, there's this base. If you notice, there's two sides of it. One holds the smaller grommet and the other side holds the larger grommet. So we're going to put that piece in there. We put the fabric on top, and we put the other part of the grommet on top of that. And then let me put the cutter away. And then we've got two of these parts. We want the larger one. And then that's going to screw into this cylinder, for lack of a better term. And then we stick that down in there. And then we pound away again, and hopefully this will go smoothly. And I should have closed that up. Let's see what we're looking like there. Get close. And there we have our grommet. Okay. So I think that's about all I had to show you with the shades and the curtains. So you can go back and look at that prototype video, and we should have some more videos coming up talking about how we organize the van and some other things. So subscribe to our channel so you don't miss those, and we'll have a link in the description to our gear page on our website, which will give you links to all the things we've purchased to make these things happen in our van. And I guess that's about it. So hopefully you'll stay tuned and watch the next video. Bye.